All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in the next in what should be a long progression of SSC trainings housed in the Vector platform. Today's conversation is about SSC elections, and specifically, we're going to answer the question, who should be on a school site council, or commonly referred to as an SSC? So it may seem like a simple question, but it's actually fairly complicated. So we're going to go through some details and hopefully get all school sites set up to have a nice, easy start to their school year with a proper school site council. So as far as composition, there's a slight difference between an elementary and secondary. So for elementary, we're going to have a minimum of 10 members. There is no maximum, but we do advise that 10 is a pretty nice, manageable amount. And some key elements of any SSC roster include parity, meaning there has to be the same number as school staff as there are parents, community members, slash students in secondary. I'm going to talk about that in a second. That's the one key difference between elementary and secondary. Secondary can have students, whereas elementary cannot. All rosters include the principal as a de facto member of the SSC, and the majority of the staff side of a roster has to be classroom teachers. Those are teachers that have a roster in PowerSchool. Resource teachers are not classroom teachers. Counselors are not classroom teachers. All of those classifications would fall under other school personnel. And one key member is that, or one key idea is that parents and community members cannot be employed by the site. So an employee can serve as an SSC member in a staff if they work at that site or really anywhere. And then if they have a child at that site, they cannot work at that site in order to be considered a parent. So here at the bottom of this slide, there's a few possible configurations. This first, I guess it's the second column, but the first example here includes one principal, 3 classroom teachers, other school personnel. So if you see here, of the 5 staff members, the majority, meaning 3 out of the 5, are classroom teachers. Other school personnel could be a variety of school personnel, classified, certificated, doesn't matter. It could be a BSS, a vice principal, a school counselor, whomever, but it just can't be a classroom teacher, meaning they can't have a roster. And then in this particular example, there's 5 parents on the parent/community member side. A community member can be anyone who is nominated by a parent. So parents nominate and vote on who the parent/community members would be. So as previously mentioned, secondary is slightly different. The only real difference is that a secondary roster can include students. So from middle school on, you can have a student serve. Actually, you'd have up to 5 students serve on your SSC. Everything else is the same. There needs to be parity between staff and parent/community members and students. So in that first example, the parity is achieved with 1 principal, 3 classroom teachers, and 1 other school personnel. So there's 5 on that side, and then 4 and 1, meaning 5 on the parent/community member/student side. So 5 and 5 makes a total of 10. And again, staff always includes the principal, and that's the only de facto member of the school site council. There are no reserved school site council seats for ASB president, or for an SDA rep, or for any other position other than principal. And again, parent community members cannot be employed at the site. They can be district employees at another site, but they cannot be employed at that actual site. Okay. So here's a review of some of the key ideas. All SSC members except the principal must be elected by their respective constituents. Okay, so this is how these are the rules we have to follow in order to properly elect our SSC. Without following these, we don't have a real SSC, which creates all kinds of problems with Title I. So classroom teachers only vote for classroom teachers. other school personnel only vote for other school personnel, parents vote for parents and community members, and students vote for students. Setting aside a membership on the SSC for a particular member, meaning SDEA, primary math grade teacher, math department chair, etc., isn't allowed. Everybody except the principal has to be voted in, and they all need to follow the same process of sending out a nomination to just that group. So you have to send the nomination for classroom teachers to just classroom teachers. So if you have one space available, you send an email to your classroom teachers saying, please nominate who you think would be interested. And then all of those nominees go on a ballot only to classroom teachers, and they can pick one. One key idea is that if you have one spot and one person that is nominated, you still have to hold an election. Even if it just gets one vote for that person, you need to have that record that they were voted in. There are no limits on the number of terms a person can serve as long as they are reelected every 2 years. So you could have someone who just every 2 years just gets reelected. They could serve as many times as they want. Elections have to be held even if the number of volunteers or nominees is the same as the vacancies. Keep all elected materials for 5 years. So that includes the year of the election plus 5 years. So really, you're going to have those records for a total of 6 years. And we highly recommend the use of Google Forms and hard copies. So a common practice is to have a list of ballots in the front office. Parent comes in, they can just use a piece of paper to submit their vote. In addition to Google Forms sent out to families electronically. So here's an example of an election process that could be used. Understand there's no legal requirements to follow, but this example represents how it could be done at your site. So for instance, we would start with a call for nominations for all needed peer groups. It's sent out based on the number of vacancies. So if you look at your roster and you know this year we need, let's say, one classroom teacher, one other school staff, and one parent/community member/student if you're a secondary. You'd send 3 different nominations to those 3 different groups. And then you also have to provide a description of the duties, responsibilities, and the term with the nominee process. You send that out, you collect some names for each of those groups. And then once you have the nominees, you send out ballots for each group and distribute only to that group. So I can't stress enough, classroom teachers only vote for classroom teachers. Parents/community members only vote for parent/community members, and students only vote for students. It is important to be able to send out the nominated student out to only the students. One thing that may happen, but it's highly unlikely, we haven't seen it in our office, you could have too many people get voted in on the parent/community member side because there's an overlap between student votes and parent/community member. In the end, the one with the most votes gets the seat. So then finally, after the ballots are counted, people with the most votes are appointed, and they agree, then you're going to call the new members and bring them into an SSC meeting and introduce them to the SSC meeting and make sure that it's documented in the minutes. So the new SSC roster is submitted for approval by the SPSA specifically to your resource teacher assigned from SPSA. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that process, but first, you can visit our website here at bit.ly. And we really hope to keep this document updated. So hopefully by the time you are seeing this, you're going to see some updates in terms of the 24-25 process. And we have made some changes this year, including one piece that I'm just about to talk about. But this is a really good site to bookmark and to refer back to when you have questions about all kinds of things, school site council, transfer information, time and labor, etc. Okay, so back to this conversation. How you submit your roster is no longer in DTS. This year, we are going to implement a school site checklist, kind of like we did for the SPSA process last year. And one of the first checklists includes this link right here to your SSC roster. So this is specific to Angier. Everything in here, all of these links are specific to Angier. It's got your ballots, your nomination process, everything, and it's going to have a link to this training eventually. So when you click on this roster, it's going to bring up a document that looks like this. And this particular sample has been completed, but you'll be able to see that if there are things missing, so for instance, if we didn't have this last position submitted, you get all of these red errors. So your goal is to have everything in green, except unless you're elementary, then you don't need this secondary one. But in here, I'm just going to review the elements of the roster. It's as simple as, first of all, their tenure. Each position has a tenure, a 2-year tenure, and hopefully there's a rotation of tenures. But in here, principal is going to be here. In this case, Mr. Callahan is our principal. Phone number, email. You might wonder why we need phone numbers and emails. We actually have a campaign of notifications to remind people about DAC events, and we really like to have an email and a phone number to call and remind them about those events and also disseminate information through. So in this particular roster, you can see there's 5 staff members. You have 3 classroom teachers here, so they have the majority of the staff side. In addition to that, it could be other school rep, again, could be certificated or classified, could be a vice principal, could be a ESA, could be anyone on the staff voted in by the other school staff people. So a list of all your resource teachers, counselors, classified, etc., would all vote in this position. So you can see in here we have a chairperson. Ms. Levy is also going to serve as our DAC rep, making sure we have her phone number and email. And then there's a secretary. Mr. Downey is going to be the secretary. On the parent side, we've got 2 parents, a community member, and then we have some students here. So we have Miriam True and Gloria Eide as students. So clearly, this is a secondary model. If we were actually doing this for Angier, these 2 would have to be community members. Let's just say that. So again, once you have everything correct and everything's filled out, you're going to get this green notifier, and all of your boxes are going to be green. Okay? There's more information on this sheet, and you're going to find that we've already imported your bylaws and the election verification form that you need to fill out, but this is a good first step. And before I move on, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this non-voting DAC representative. So it is possible for your site to have a full roster of people up here, and then you could have a DAC rep that doesn't vote on your SSC, but attends your meetings for you. If that is the case, they would be considered an SSC non-voting DAC rep, meaning you can put a name in here and a phone number, and that person would be your DAC rep, which when you do that, you can't have 2, right? You'd have this person and then none over here. It could be alternates, but this person would be your actual DAC rep, even though they don't have a vote on your SSC. Okay, going back to our presentation here. All right, so this is everything you need to know about not only the composition of your roster, how to elect or nominate and elect those members of your SSC, then also how to record your roster and submit it to our office. Now it's time to take a quiz. So you have as many chances as possible, and you have to get 100% to pass. Have a fun time.